Welcome back to another episode of Pink Couch Conversations with me, Dio, your host. I am honored to have this guest with me, Faye Edwards. Faye, I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself. Please share your name, your law school, and what your favorite thing about being a woman in law is.
Thank you so much. So first of all, honored. Love it. It's an honor to be here, first of all. So thank you for making this happen. So my name is Phelan Edwards. I always go by Faye. I am the founder and created the Legally Lost. That's Legally Lost underscore on Instagram. I attend the University of South Carolina Law, and I'm from Stone Mountain, Georgia. So I'm just all over the place. But yeah, I guess what made me want to go to law school was because of my past. And so there's very different periods of life for me that reaffirmed it that I should go. I I am a victim of sexual assault, domestic violence, and so I did not speak up about it. Um, didn't feel comfortable, especially in the system. Victim blaming and shaming. I felt like me speaking up in the time that we were in would not be beneficial for me until I kept seeing these cases um, with individuals that I'm connected with and me telling them to, hey, you should definitely reach out and speak up and report it, only because it was something I couldn't do for myself. So that was the first instance I was like, maybe I should definitely advocate for individuals who were in the same predicament as me. And then my family, my mother always thought that I would be the type of person or should be a lawyer. I don't necessarily like to argue, but I have good points. And I love to talk. And so she felt like if you want to talk, because I was the type of person to get talkative on the report card. You needed to make some money out of it. So she pushed me to make sure I go to law school, and here I am today.
That's a perfect segue. I was gonna ask how your family your background has influenced your decision to go to law school, but I feel like you completely just answered that for me. That was great. It's awesome. So what was that liminal space between undergrad and law school? Where'd you go for undergrad?
So I went to the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, for undergrad, and I majored in public relations with a specialization in sports and entertainment and minored in political science. No, I did not know. I didn't realize I wanted to go to law school until like the end of sophomore year. I actually been running from this whole thing because, like I said, parents want you to do something, and I'm very much like, nah. Just because you want me to do it, I'm gonna make sure I don't. And like I said, things happen in my life that reaffirm that you need to go to law school. Um, and so that's what I did. I was behind the eight ball. So like I said, found out that I wanted to go to law school at the end of sophomore year, thrown in about the LSAT, did poorly. We could talk about that, but I did pretty bad, but still applied because my parents, mainly my mom, wanted me to go straight into law school right after college. Mainly because the fear of being relaxed. So I did end up taking a gap year. That was a whole argument. Trying to tell her like, look, I need this. My LSAT score was pretty bad. Like I cannot go anywhere. So I have to take the time to study for this thing, and build up some money as well. So I took 2 years off. The first year was to study for the LSAT, and the second year was to build up my money. During that time, I was a paralegal in Atlanta for an entertainment law firm, which was awesome. I got to get some experience that was helpful in the end in law school, and I also saved up money and built connections. But it was also in the midst of the pandemic, so when everybody shut down, I personally enjoyed the panini. I kind of miss it. I miss her low key without the catastrophe um and the lives that were lost. I did enjoy being at home, and just focusing and studying on the LSAT. So that's what I did. And then once the pandemic was over, in Atlanta, it's been over way before everybody else. We went back to work and I built up my money then. So yeah, I had a pretty non-traditional. I'm a non-traditional law student and took 2 years off.
I love that. Okay, so there's two things that you brought up that I really want to ask about. So one, do you recommend people, because I know a lot of people ask me like, oh, like should I, like when I'm looking for gap year jobs, do I have to be a paralegal? Like do firms, or does that help with law school? Do firms really care about that? What has been your experience with that? And also I want to talk about how, like I really, because my story is very similar in that when I first took the LSAT, I got a 148, unacceptable. No school took me. The same thing. I had this feeling of like, let me not apply. But my dad was like, no, just apply, you never know. And I didn't get into any school. Like, why would you make me break my heart like that? It was really bad. So yeah, like I highly resonate with that story. But I'm glad that you like put your foot to the ground and was like, I'm not applying to schools. Like, I wish I had done that because I wasn't really heartbroken. I kind of knew that God was like, just wait a year. But at the same time, I was like, I wasted time, I wasted money, like applying the first time, when I should have just been like, it's a low LSAT score, don't go right now. Like, it's okay not to apply. So I want to say just amazing kudos, love the confidence in yourself, and then also yeah, the paralegal thing. Like, do you recommend people do that?
So yes, I 100% recommend a gap year or 2 or 3. I don't necessarily think it's necessary to become a paralegal. So what was hesitant for me about the whole process was I thought I had to go back to school to get like a paralegal certificate. In some states, you do not have to have that. In Georgia, all you need is an attorney say, "Hey, you're my paralegal," and so be it. In other states, you do need a certificate. If you're sure that this is going to be a temporary thing, I would not put money into being a paralegal. Um, it also should put some fire under you because you did not get a certificate. You're probably not going to get paid as much as one who did get a certificate. So you're really just using this to get you by to get to the next level, which is law school. And that's what it was for me. It was truly, I work best when I realize I have not arrived. Even in law school, I'm in like a housing, well, I'm in an apartment that's not luxurious, but it's not the gutter either, but it's a good medium where I realize you have not arrived. You're still in this grind. And so that is the thing that I recommend. So whatever it is for you, to make you realize you are not done, you still need a grind, do it. If that's being a waitress, do it. I was a receptionist too at the YMCA and a gymnastics coach. I had 3 jobs to keep me humbled and let me know, like, it'd be a reminder that this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I need to keep going. The second question that you gave was the like keeping my foot down about applying. I actually did apply right after like during my senior year of college. I had a 130 something. So I had a 130 something. And I tested twice. My mom pushed me to take it again in November when I should not have. I was depressed. I was going through a breakup. It was real bad. And I thought I could push through, and I did worse than the first time. So it was like high 130s. And then the second time was like, babe, the only points you got was putting your name down. Like that's what it was. And I applied. So and didn't get anywhere. And so I guess no, I was also peer pressured, but I also was like, all right, mom, like I truly did not get anywhere. Let's try it my way. But I had to advocate for myself. I literally had to come up with the schedule. I had to come up with the plan. I had to come up with the study prep, and then the podcast. I sent thinking LSAT to my mother on an episode of why you should take the LSAT very seriously. It wasn't until then she realized, okay, you got a year to get it together. So that's what happened. So put your foot down, but you need to have a plan.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Cause wow, yeah. But the thing I love about this like the similarities is like you will get where you need to go at the end of the day. Like this journey might be rocky, the journey might look crazy, but like and you're like that the fact that we're even like openly talking about this is so rare in like social media law school spaces. People don't share their scores, so I really just appreciate you being open enough to share your score. I really, really do appreciate that. So I'm really curious why you chose the school that you chose. Yeah, like what was the thought process? Did you are you looking to practice in South Carolina? Like, what are your thoughts?
So first things first, I'm not a person who cares about ranks. Period. Like my testimony proves that I want to end up in a nice lifestyle. What that means, I need to have a job that can like sustain that. So that's typically big law. We can get into it, but I want to be in the South. That is my thing. I am from the South. I It's for me. I wanted to make sure that I stay close to my roots in my backyard to make the changes in my backyard. It's kind of not saying that people who go off to these other places and can't make those changes, but it's just like, I don't know. For me, if I know I'm gonna come back to the South, I kind of want to be in the South. Second thing is, it's easier to do the politics, and yes, law school is very political. Is let it be an official campaign or just really networking? It's politics involved. It's easier to already be in it than to come from one place and come into it. So I was being very strategic. And finally, my boyfriend, he is also, well, we're waiting for the bar results. But he is he graduated from Wake Forest Law. So he that's in North Carolina. So I knew I wanted to be somewhere in the Carolinas just in case that he ends up in Charlotte and I would end up there too or be able to. So South Carolina is this great hub. Specifically my school is like the leading law school in the state, but also the connections, the network. I was able to meet a lot of alums, prominent alums, and we can talk about my ultimate favorite, which is the Honorable Des Childs, who's now on the Court of Appeals of the United States of America. Like that's huge. And she was in discussions to be potentially appointed to the Supreme Court. You don't hear that from South Carolina. You don't hear that from the South. You don't hear that from the state school. And so I really enjoy picking the school that I picked. And the scholarship money comes along with it, but also like the reach, the outreach. I can go to Charlotte, North Carolina. I can be in Atlanta. I can stay in South Carolina. So it's just a perfect hub and a perfect place to be.
I love that. I love that. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that like rankings, it's like it really is. It's really you really have to have a holistic like viewpoint when you're choosing a law school. Yeah, I'm just gonna say that because that's like a whole big thing as well. Another question I have for you now. Okay, you know you're a 2L at South Carolina. How has that experience been for you? Like I know we are first generation. Like how like navigating as a first generation law student. Like what has that been feeling like and looking like for you?
Unpopular opinion, I'd rather be a 1L. Period. I'd rather be a 1L than a 2L. It's because it's not that the field, like the studies, the case law, that's not hard anymore because now I know what I'm doing. What's hard about 2L year is that everything else comes into place. So 1L year, it felt like you were in a bubble and life stopped outside. You didn't, you, we, well, I didn't work. Some of my peers did, but they asked for you not, they suggest for you not to work. So a good number of us didn't work. So we already had stuff coming to us. The spoon setting was going, they were trying to teach you how to write, teach you how to read. And you really didn't really have to think about outside too much because what academics or organizations, outside curricular activities, you are just a member. If that, you have no responsibility. You don't have to lead people. You just sit there. If you want 2L year, you're taking control of everything. Now you're working if you would like. You're on journal like myself, you're spading. You are going to meetings, you're running these meetings, you're networking, you're keeping your grades up. So it's like all of those things come into play. And if you're a person like me who's overly involved, which is the setup, which is I highly don't recommend that. I literally had to cut down and take and make sacrifices. Um, as well as second semester, my 1L year, I didn't do as well. So I'm on my redemption story. So I'm trying to put in the work again as if I'm a 1L, but with the responsibilities of a 2L. So it's really, really hard. And the sacrifices that are being made is just as hard as 1L year, but people understood as a 1L. 2L year, they're expecting you to be able to juggle it all because you went through the fire. I'd rather be a 1L, honestly.
Well, I've never heard that before. Everyone's like, never doing 1L again. Absolutely not. Worst year of my life. It is.
No, I rather have it.
I think you're so right. Like I think I always describe it like 1L you don't get to pick your poison. Like the poison is given to you. 2L you get to pick your poison. And sometimes we just choose we like take too much poison that more than we need to because we feel like we need to. So I feel like it just really depends on personality. For some people, their 2L has been really chill, but for a lot of people, especially at my law school, like everyone is doing like 3 journals and they're part like the president of 3 clubs and they're doing this. Like I'm like, wait, hold on, law review. Like wait, y'all not really gonna y'all not gonna recover from 1L? Like y'all are not gonna take the time. But I understand like for you, like you have a lot of catch up to do because like things just happened your first year that was just not fortunate. And I wanted to talk about that because you kind of had a really difficult experience happen your first year, and you're trying to like navigate law school while like your mom like passed away. So how did that affect your first year experience, and how did you protect your mental health and keep going during that time?
So, my 1L year, the first month of my 1L year, my mother passed away unexpectedly. And everybody who follows my like page knows I'm very transparent of how I feel and how's it going. And she passed away due to a brain aneurysm, which I highly recommend everybody go get checked. It's genetically passed, so I know I'm gonna get checked, especially since she had that. And it's very prevalent in women. So definitely that's my little message. But after she passed, I took like I guess a total of a week off. Not even after she passed. She passed in the middle of the week. I took the remainder of the week off and came back that following week, that Monday, as if nothing happened. Until this day, a lot of my classmates do not know or would have thought that something happened that catastrophic. I was very numb to the whole idea that she was gone because I have a tight bond and connection with my mother. It's as if we haven't talked on the phone, but because I've been away and I went away for college, and the only time I came home was during my gap year, it kind of felt like she's still here. It's just I haven't talked to her on the phone. I know her presence and things like that. It wasn't until and I did well my first semester because I was so numb, as well as I distracted myself with law school. So it was pretty easy for me to do well 1L year the first semester. When I went home for winter break, life and reality set in. The home didn't feel like home anymore. I could not stand being in the state of Georgia. Like I was trying to get back, and I knew I needed to have a break, but truly it wasn't really a break for me. By the time I came back to school, I was burnt out before the semester started. But I didn't think I was burnt out. I just kept pushing through. I started to cry more, realizing that she was gone. I was watching and binge watching shows that reminded me of her rather than probably reading. So like, but I didn't know that was my way of grieving. And I didn't realize that I had like mental anxiety as well. It was always there, but it magnified. So whenever my brother calls me, I'm thinking something happened. If I don't hear anything from my father, I'm freaking out. Instead of me listening and participating on property or civil procedure, I'm over here checking on family and being the mom, daughter, and granddaughter at the same time as in law school. So it was very hard. And my mental health was shot And I got to see how shot it was when the grades came out. Um, and I was making grades I ain't never made in my entire life. And it at that moment, it was a wake up call for me. When you asked about what do I do for my mental health, at that moment, absolutely nothing. I did not. I don't know. As a Black woman, I think we're speaking more and more about mental health, but it's like my mom did not take breaks. I don't take breaks. I don't know what that looks like. So I really have to seek out the help as well as address whatever is going on in my head. I went to go just like figure out what's wrong with anxiety. Is this diagnosed? Do I have a diagnosed condition? Like, what is it? Found out I have high general anxiety and I have ADD. So I found out all of that. That makes sense. But like it wasn't until my grades were truly impacted for me to kind of go get that help. Last week was my first therapy session, period. So, and I did that because in the anniversary of my mother's passing, I saw how much my family has gone and it has grown. Only a few days later, one of my closest friends, who's at the law school, also passed unexpectedly. So it's another thing to grieve on your own outside of the law school and use law school to distract you. But when the person that you lost now is law school, it's hard and everyone's grieving. It's even harder. So you can't really escape it. So that made me go get some actual counseling and I feel better. So that's what I'm doing. I'm talking it out and truly like getting medically diagnosed and assessing my mental health that way. So yeah, we're making it one step at a time.
No, I absolutely love that for you. I love that you made that step and made that leap. I love that. I don't love that you talked about this, but I feel like I appreciate you bringing this up. Let me say that because about the whole Black women don't take breaks thing. I think that's a big thing. Like we just kind of think that we have to keep going, keep going, and keep going. That's why I kind of love people talk bad about it, but I kind of love this like new trend of like soft life that Black women are taking on. Is like I'm gonna take a nap. Like I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna rest. I'm gonna do this. So I feel like I really appreciate that that's becoming more of like a normal thing, and also that like law students, like Black female law students, are also. I have a lot of people who I've talked to so far who are also realizing that they have ADHD or just ADD, or they realize that they have either high functioning or high general anxiety. And it's like law school is bringing all this stuff out. Like before it was like, oh, like we can excel, we can do fine undergrad. It's like, okay. And now that like we're being tested, it's like, oh, like now all of the real things underneath us are coming up. So yeah, that's what I'm really curious how like community has looked like for you at South Carolina. Was it easy making friends? Was it hard making friends? Do you have advice for people as they're like coming into law school next year? Like what were the tips that you would give for people who are looking to build community after law school?
So I'm a pretty nice person. I'm not approachable, so I've been told. I'm working on that. I'm trying to smile more, but I'm probably the most nicest person you'll probably ever meet. So it was pretty easy for me to meet friends at the school. I'm genuine. That's a big thing. You got to be genuine. There's a lot of people out here that's probably going to be your next senator, and they're campaigning today. It's crazy, but if that is, you got to be mindful of that. Even if you plan on being in politics, today is not your election. You know, today they say a lot about law school is people will remember your reputation heavily. So how you treat people, it will come back around, and the person you were being mean to is the judge, or the person you were being mean to is first chair, or the prosecutor, and you're the defense counsel. Like you really need to just treat people with respect. Um, that's my biggest tip that I would give. Don't be upset. If it doesn't come off like with the hit, like if you don't find a group, don't be upset that it doesn't form that quickly. It really doesn't. It probably doesn't. I know some people who were loners 1L year and now they got a whole posse 2L year. It's awesome. It's just got to be open. But there's also the thing about your community. I toured my school prior to accepting, and the vibe was just welcoming and warm, not competitive at all. I mean, granted, we all know we're competing against each other, but it doesn't have to feel like it. So if you can go on a tour and just kind of, one, speak with students and ask them what's the vibe like, and two, you sit down and feel it. Don't be biased just because the building looks nice and they're ranked #1 in the nation. Like, truly sit down and see if you can mentally be here, because like you said, you already have or potentially have anxiety. Law school only intensifies it and exposes it. So you want to put your peace first, and so that's what I would mainly suggest for those people going into law school.
Really, really good tips. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. I think that piece about like you never know who like you will like come in contact with later on in life. Like that's a really, really big thing. I think the way that some law schools do it can be very like when people are jerks, it's like, oh, still be nice to the jerks, but it's like I don't know, it's hard. It's like a hard balancing line of like be nice, be loving, but like don't be fake. Like that's like a really hard line to play. It's so hard. So I would acknowledge that like it's like you said before, like it's politics, bro. Like you if you want to, I mean, obviously I also believe that nothing can get in the way of your blessing. No person, no situation, no circumstance. But I also agree, like being kind to everyone, because you really, really never know. So that's a really, really good point. Okay, I want to shift gears just a little bit, and I want to talk about your summer, your big law summer. First of all, let's talk about how hard it is to get a big law summer, associate position, and you got that. So let's talk about it. How did you get it? What were the best things, the worst things, all the things?
So everybody told me, based off of my GPA. Also, I did relatively well first semester, in my opinion, but it was not a 3.0. I was still under the 3.0. And so people would say, you don't have a 3.0, it's not happening. And I'm a big firm believer of I'm a prove you wrong. So that's what happened. I shot my shot. But also, personality gets you a long way. I know people who have higher GPAs than me, and they're not where I ended up. So again, it goes back to just being a good person, but also your vibe. If your vibe is off, the employers can smell it. It's crazy. It's really crazy. But the most like beneficial things that I did was definitely have the confidence and shoot my shot. Also network. I networked before I started applying, and that's a big thing a lot of students forget. This is a professional school. Yes, the readings matter. LVAR is probably the best and the most important class, I would say, and we'll get into it. But networking is another thing. So just as much as you're studying, you need to apply that same amount of energy to networking. You can honestly have met the person that you're going to interview with prior to like months before, and you already probably got the job. They're just going through the system to make sure that they cross all their T's, but you probably already got the job because they already met you. With me, I applied through OCIs, which is on-campus interviews. Not every school has that for their 1L. It's typically done during 2L year, but my school offers it during 1L year. That's huge because typically in big law firms, they have diversity programs. I applied to diversity programs and didn't get a single one. So most of people would kind of be discouraged right off the bat there. I personally believe diversity programs are harder and more competitive than on-campus interviews. To this day, I have yet to get a job through diversity programs, and every single one of my jobs is through on-campus interviews. And I think that speaks volumes because diversity in-house in the state that you're in, it can be very beneficial versus competing against everybody in the world, trying to get into that spot and fill that diversity application and quota. So not quota, but because constitutional law. Anyway, so but yeah, so that's what I did. My resume, I went to the career center and have them like check it. My best friends, it's the registrar's office and the career center. because those are the two things that's going to get you through the school and out the school. So I went to them. I also went to my mentors, my boyfriend who's been through it, and had them look over my material. I also did a lot of mock interviews, even real interviews, even the ones that I think that I'm not going to go for, or if they offer I wasn't going to take. I still thought it was a great opportunity to interview with, especially since my core group, I have diversity. We're all Black, white, Asian, Latinx, you name it. But it's something about white, just white men. I don't have too many white men who are willing, and older white men. And those are people who are typically interviewing me. And so, for my benefit, I'm still going to interview with these individuals so I can practice and we can each have a better conversation and build that communication. It's all a skill. So, just because you don't get the job doesn't mean you didn't get something from it. You learn interviewing at etiquette, and that takes you farther than anything.
I love that. I love your piece about networking. I think one thing that people don't really know about networking is that there's different ways to network. You don't have to go to these big giant, crowds of people. Like if that's uncomfortable for you, you can just cold email somebody, meet with them one on one. Like I feel like there's ways to do it that's conducive to like introversion and extroversion. Like I feel like that intimidates a lot of people, especially people who lean more introverted with networking. But like there are ways to do it like that have like a more one-on-one interaction. So I love that you brought that up. I'm really curious how your experience was in the firm. So I think one thing we talked about was the fact that you were the only Black woman at your location, and that's like really difficult. So I'm really interested to hear like how you navigated that, how you like got through it, all the things.
So I was the only, for like half of the summer, I was the only Black woman that was a clerk. There are other Black attorneys, but it's still something different. When you're you're the only Black woman that is a clerk, as well as you are a first generation law student. That adds another thing. I did see a lot of the like, hey, how's your dad going? Like they already know each other through family ties. Or, oh, your parent was such a great, phenomenal asset to my career. I appreciate it. Like not even a lawyer, but just had some sort of legal experience, and they connected on that level. With me, it was like we don't know what to talk about. And and I think just as I was uncomfortable, they were uncomfortable because they don't know what to say. You have to be the type of person, especially in big law, you unfortunately, the Black person, the person of color, gotta step out that box and make it, unfortunately, comfortable for them. I don't mean to be submissive. I don't mean to like downgrade yourself. I mean, you initiate the conversation and you let them know who you are. For me, I shared my story of being here despite my mother passing during 1L year, the first month, unexpectedly. I'm still taking care of my family. I'm running her estate, and I'm here. That, if I was like, okay, they don't want to talk to me because I'm Black and we have nothing to talk about, they wouldn't have gotten to know me, and I wouldn't have been able to share my story and show them and have an advocate for when later down the road it comes down to decision making, they don't pick me. As well as just being genuine. These people actually want to get to know you, and their networks go far. I love the firm I was at. It was amazing experience. I got to do everything. I wanted to go into one thing for healthcare and came out realizing I can do 7 other different things and be okay. The community was great. And the same thing I said before about checking out the vibe in law school is the same principle here. I will say you're on a long-term, long interview. So even though you got the job, they're trying to see if one, can you do the work, and if it's polishing up, and two, do you mesh with the firm? And you're trying to see if you like the firm. So y'all are both interviewing each other as a Black person as well. It is very exhausting. It can be to be on all the time. I saw this trend on TikTok about what the 5 things you would never do as a Black person in corporate America or whatever, and the rules for in general of what you should and should not do as a person who's in big law, Black or white or whatever. I will say some of those rules don't apply to us. We just flat out can't do it. Because it's just best not to. We're already under a magnifying glass. You gotta work 10 times harder to get half. And that's the same mentality you have to keep, even though you got the job. So it can be exhausting, but if you have a good friend that kind of understands that this is exhausting, especially for you, they're going to make sure they find a way to make you comfortable, whatever you need, and they appreciate the dialogue. And don't take things to heart. Like some stuff, don't. It's not intentional. Like maybe it's just they did not know. So let's not get too defensive too quick. That's the biggest advice I have to say about being Black in big law as a summer clerk.
I think one thing that's interesting that I noticed is that there's not a lot of, at least at my firm, there weren't a lot of Black female like partners like nationwide. There's only one. And I was asking someone like, why is that? I think one of the reasons was like money, but I think another reason was like it's really difficult to sustain that over a long period of time to the point of partner. Like that, like you said, it gets exhausting, and you're like, I don't want to be the martyr just so I can show people like, oh, yeah, like, I'm a Black woman partner at a big law firm. Like that can be very difficult and exhausting. But there's some people who are built for that. Like some people have that like ability to like what I don't even know what the appropriate word for it, but like to kind of like fit in to like into a setting that does not that they're not the majority in, and some people don't have that personality. Like some people, but I think it's good to figure it out as you're interviewing at firms, as you're summering at places. Like figure out if this is something that you actually are okay with doing, because it can be very hard. I think that's a big reason why there's not a lot of Black folks who are partners at big law firms, because it's like you're always on, you're always constantly on, and you're going to encounter some unintentional microaggressions. You're gonna have to deal with these things. And some people, and this is fine. I'm personally one of those people who can't do that long term. I'm just gonna say that. Like I'm one of those people who doesn't know how to like play the game. I don't know how to play the plots. Me and my dad will always argue about like my dad has a very similar like point of view that you have. I'm just like, you want me to do what? Like you want me to learn about golf and football and all just so I can talk to them? Absolutely not. It's really hard to like, it's like there's a line, and I haven't found the line yet. So I'm like figuring out, I really, really do want to like have like representation in big law, but how do I do that without compromising like myself? And I feel like you have like a really good, I feel like you have a very good like system in place where you're not like compromising who you are. You're still being yourself. You're still sharing your story, but you're also like getting to know them, getting to know their hobbies, their interests, right? And you're like meeting them halfway, and I love that. That's so beautiful. I think I wish if my dad had said it that way, I probably would have been like, oh, okay, like I'll try. But like that whole like just learn about baseball just because they like baseball, absolutely not. That's crazy. That's absolutely no. So I appreciate that. You spent half your summer at a big law firm, and you also were with a judge. Talk about your experience with the judge.
Yo, she is awesome. So like I said, we're I clerked, well, internship interned under the Honorable Judge Michelle Childs. And during that time, it was a historic moment. But for me, it was very important because she was leaving her position at the district court and going to the Court of Appeals. And I was there to see both sides. And I'll just speak more so on her. I went to South Carolina because of her, and that representation is huge. Like we said, the firm that I ended up at for intern for the summer is the exact same firm she started at, and it's the exact same firm she became partner. She was the first African American, period. Definitely the first African American woman in the state to become partner. But since then, I haven't seen that representation at the firm like that. And they're working towards that. So that's the thing. But she is an awesome, pivotal, and a pillar in the community. And I was just in awe. I don't get starstruck about too many people, especially because I was in the entertainment field, so I wasn't really impressed. I'm here just to get my job done, but I did get starstruck at least this time. I had to just sit there in awe to see her in chambers and just was like, and I had to get the work done, but like it took me more time to get the work done to her just to make sure it's perfect versus me giving work to the partner. Like and she's just amazing. And we found out we were in the same sorority. And from there, not only be having her as a mentor in the legal field, but like big sister, that's awesome. So I highly recommend, first of all, interning for a judge. It was free. I did not get paid. And I think that was the best idea I ever came up with. It's worth the sacrifice. You're tightening up on your writing skills. You're also networking, and you also get to see what good lawyering and bad lawyering looks like. You're going to court, and this is probably the best of the best because they're in front of a judge like this, a federal court judge, but yet they're not that great. So like you get to see court etiquette in writing and practicing, but also get to see what a judge looks at. I'm a big person on football, so me and your dad probably could talk a lot, but it's like the coach's handbook. What better place to be than on the coach's side and seeing what they would look for, and how you want to go about things when it's your turn as a lawyer and you're presenting in front of a judge. So I loved it. I highly recommend it, and she is awesome. Definitely keep looking out for her and use her as an inspiration because she, like I said, went to a school in the South, law school, and yet was in conversations about becoming the next Supreme Court justice. So that's amazing.
I love when you talk about her. It just like makes me really, really happy because I think I remember us also talking about how like a lot of times older black women will like try to dissuade the younger black women from like go to law school, like being in big law. And it's just like really interesting why that's like a thing sometimes. Like it's hard to find black female, at least for me. Like there was a lot of them, but a lot of their advice was like just don't go, just don't do it. Like it's not worth it. And I think sometimes that it gets confusing because it's like there's like only 3% of, or how many of us, like 2% of us in the whole legal field, you're trying to dissuade me from going. This is ridiculous. So I feel like that's really hard to find, like really like good like champions, black women who are champions of the legal field and who want to like bring more black women into that fold. So I love when you talk about her because I just feel like that's, yeah, it's just really important to have like older mentors who, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was an accident that I'm like on her journey. Like I didn't realize that wasn't it was intentional to go to the school, but unintentional to land the summer job I did, which was where she worked. And then I ended up interning for her. Like that was purpose, and it won't miss you whatsoever. So it was awesome. And she definitely was like for me doing whatever I wanted to do.
Oh, I love that. Okay. I love that so much. Okay. I wanted to also ask about, so I know one thing that was brought up during our preliminary conversation was the difference between attending a T14 and attending like a South Carolina. And we also talked about how like, how do I explain this? Like the 2020 cycle was interesting. I think we both came in at the same time. It was the 2020 cycle was interesting because that was when the LSAT Flex was introduced, and because the LSAT Flex was a little bit easier than the original LSAT, like when people started like being in law school, it was like, wait, can I actually do this? So I want to hear you talk more about like that experience, you watching other people having to go through that, and then like what are your experiences been like? Well, not even, I don't want to call it lower rank school, but just like a non T14, I'll call it that.
Yeah, so my school is a T100. It's not the top, okay? So like it really, and you'll hear that all the time. If it's not T25, it's irrelevant. And I don't think that's the case. I will say if you plan on being a Supreme Court justice, my first statement was you may want to go to one of those higher ranked schools. But like I said, my whole inspiration was in conversations, and she went to a T100 school. So I think society is starting to change. and elitism is no longer going to be the standard, you know? So I think true diversity, you're going to have to look into lower ranked schools. So don't let that discourage you. I think lower ranked schools give you more money for scholarships than higher ranked schools. Um, Not that, with the trade-off that if you end up in a higher ranked school, you're probably going to be able to recoup that money that you got loans, because you're going to pay it back just because of the name. I will say though, going back to vibes in the community, and maybe you can talk about it for your perspective being at a higher ranked school. For me, it's not competitive. Like, come on, this is not Harvard, this is not Yale. So you need to respect where you're at, So I think that's great. I love that for us. And I appreciate that. It's easier to have community there. But also the top-notch teaching is also great at any school. And I was surprised about what we had. With the cycle we had, everybody wanted to go to law school, evidently. And the flex was flexing. I love it. I'm thankful for it, but I also did have the experience of seeing the LSAT prior to the flex, and it was definitely different. I won't even say it was different. It's just something about being on at home taking that exam truly helped. Hmm, maybe we should change that system forever. um, and I think that's what happened, and a huge rush of people apply, which threw a lot of the admissions off. I know people who ended up at my school were supposed to should have been at Georgetown, Harvard, Yale, but because there were so many people that applied, they got to be a little bit more picky with their selection. Um, or they were on wait lists forever until school started, and it's too late by then. So I think now we probably won't see that happening again until maybe a Great Depression, and the economy flops like tremendously. Not a depression, a recession, and the economy flops. But I enjoy being at a unranked school. However, the only thing I will say is you're competing against everybody and their mama, and that comes to a detriment. I truly believe the reason why I did not get as far with diversity programs is because I'm competing against, let's not even talk about Harvard, Yale, and Stanford. I'm literally competing against people that are in the schools of North Carolina that are higher ranked. And that's hard to beat if I'm not in the top of my class. I would have to be at the top of my class to be in the New York, Washington, D.C. type of market because of where I'm at. But if you're at a higher ranked school, maybe not so. Y'all don't even have grades. Y'all have pass fails. It's crazy. It's really crazy, So I think that's the only downside about going to a lower ranked school. We got grades and it's harder to compete. Now, if you don't want to get in the fight, if you don't want to get in the ring, I would say work your butt off to get that high LSAT score so you can land in a higher ranked school so you don't have to really fight that hard. But if you're down for the fight and you want to stay in the community that you want to be in, lower ranked school is not that bad. And we have a huge mafia mentality. In South Carolina, if you're not a South Carolina alum, we can't help you. I'm just kidding. They'll help you. They'll take you if you're outside of the jurisdiction. But it's just more so like family, and we look out for our own, and I like that.
I think that was perfectly said. That was perfectly said. Because yes, if you have the grind in you to like be at a lower ranked school, but like you can get yourself to that top, please go. Like just save your money. Like I feel like I'm drowning in debt here. Like save your money and go to a lower ranked school and be on the top. But if you don't want to work hard, I'm just playing. That's not what it is. But like it's a little bit easier because I think we've mentioned this before. Like I think I've also talked about this on my channel of like, like I straight, so we don't necessarily have pass fail. We have high honors, which is the highest grade you could if you could get. honors, and then most people just pass. And because law firms don't know what to do with that, they don't know what that actually means. They just kind of assume because you're at like a top school that you're smart, that you got it. You don't need anything. But then there's also that piece of like but there's also that piece of like, okay, there are students who have the HHs and the Hs, but don't get big law jobs, because like that's where I'm kind of going in different places. But like that's like the networking and the personality are like really really big deals. But I completely agree. Like I think that I'm like right now this semester. I've shifted my. The only reason I'm able to even do pink couch conversations is because I do not care about school right now. That's literally it. Like I read for class in the morning. I go. I don't review. I do not review. I do not care. I'm in my clinic. My clinic is asking for a lot. I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not paying me. I'll do what I can do, bare minimum. Like, and I'm able to do that because at the end of the day, even if I straight P this semester, I still have a job. Like I still have a job. I'm fine. Like even if my job fires me, like I can find another one. Like the name alone will open doors for you. You don't have to. Like the pressure is off. I will say that the pressure is
The
so.
pressure's on, babe. Over here, like I said, redemption story. They're still looking at my GPA. I gotta go up, like so. It's a harder grind, but that's my personality. I'm going to keep that fire on me. Um, and if I get too lax, yeah, I can't do it. So maybe it's best that I'm not at a higher rank school because you tell me I don't really need to do anything, just get a P. I promise you I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, no, yeah. I think it's also a personality thing. I think there definitely are Berkeley students who are grinding. Like they don't who like just like are just have that like I want to be the best of the best personality. So even if they're at a school where like their name alone will open doors for them, they want to grind, they want to be involved, they want to do all these things. I just don't have that personality. Like I feel like once I'm set, I'm set, and I kind of get really comfortable. And I like to be comfortable, so it's just difference in personality. Not one is better than the other. It's just like know yourself enough to know what you need, and if you have to grind at the beginning to get to the higher rank school, grind at the beginning. Cause I grinded. Like I'm not gonna sit here in front. Like blood, sweat, and tears for the LSAT, and I barely made it. Let's talk about that. Like I barely got into the school. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm just lazy and I just don't really care. No, I cared a lot, and I put a lot into a lot of effort into getting here. So I feel like a part of me is just like, I'm just gonna relax for a while because my first year was just really bad, and I just
No, that's true. It's either you're gonna put the blood, sweat, and tears during the LSAT, or just get me to law school. I'll put the blood, sweat, and tears in the next year and a half. So yeah.
that was see perfectly said again. That was great. Okay, I know we're running out of time, but I really wanted to ask two more questions. Well, three more. One, how has your faith been impacted by law school? And then also, how is dating another law student? No one talks about that, so I'm really interested. And then I'll ask my last question later.
So faith. So when my mom passed, me and the Lord, we were going at it. More so I was going at it. He was like, I know you're mad at me, but understand what I did or why life runs like this. You may not understand now, but you'll understand later. And I find peace in that now, that I may not understand now. And I did not understand then. But I now I'm starting to understand, especially since losing my friend and going through it with my friends. I'm telling them we will not understand now, but we will understand later. But let's take the lessons that we've learned and that they taught us, our loved ones taught us, and apply it. So I've gotten closer with the Lord. I've learned to like lean more on faith. Sometimes, I'm stressed out and have high anxiety and I'm a what if. But at the end of the day, I have no choice but to kind of like relax. And if it's for me, it's for me. And I'm praying that it's gonna be in his way, and I'm going that way. Which leads me to my whole man. So he is currently he is an assistant district attorney back at home, and that's another thing. When I said he went to a great school, Wake Forest is a great school. He could honestly go anywhere. He decided to go back home, and home is Augusta, So like that, he could have been anywhere. Truly, Charlotte, Atlanta, but he chose to come home, and things have been lining up for him. But as for me too, I would never go. But I recently just got a job offer with a firm in a for the summer with a firm in Augusta, thinking that it would be something lower tier, doing like mom and pop stuff. It's literally the same as the things that I was doing at my big law firm and getting paid the same. When I say the Lord blesses you and what's for you is for you, and if you're what you need, what I need is security, and what I need and what I prioritize is being financially stable because my mother worked her tail off so we could be financially stable. And I want to be comfortable like you. So I want to be in that, and I want to be in a loving marriage relationship. I'm speaking marriage now because we've been together for quite some time now, and I will be done after 3 year, and he's already solidified. So the next steps is that. So yeah, I just went to church on y'all, but like it's you got to be. That's what my purpose is. That's what my priorities are right now, and I feel like the Lord in my faith, he intentionally puts those things in the forefront. Um, Dating another law student or lawyer, this has been the best times of our lives. When I was a paralegal and he was in law school, we were knucking and bucking because I didn't understand the sacrifice. I didn't understand how I was second or third place in law school in midterms, and law school friends were first. But now that I'm in law school, we're speaking the same language. And now it's kind of cool because he's not only my boyfriend, but he's also like not a mentor, but like a tutor. He's my own little tutor, especially with the things that he's done well in and the classes he's excelled in, and he actually does tutor people in. He can now tutor me. Um, and I love that about our relationship. I initially did not want to date him because we were I didn't want to be with him because we were talking about law school way too much. He ended up we applied at the same time and he went straight in versus me. My pride got shot because I didn't get in. But also I felt like we were talking about law school way too much. Like law. What is the relationship about? But when you're passionate about something and love something, you're gonna talk about it. And I had to get over that because I'm passionate about law and I'm passionate about him, and we kind of just make that thing work. And it's just, I think it's the best relationship because time management and commitment, and he understands the sacrifice. I don't have to explain myself. I can go a whole day without talking to. Well, no, I can go majority of the day without talking to him and hit him up at night, and he doesn't get mad. I don't think many other individuals are willing to understand that, especially in this day. So if you can have a person like that, and they don't have to be in law school, they can be in any field they want. It's the fact that they got to understand the sacrifice. And if they can't get with that, I don't know. I can see how so many lawyers are lonely because the other side does not understand the sacrifice. And in this field, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot.
That was really well said. I think you summarized that very, very well. I love that. Okay, my final question for you before we go is, how do you take care of yourself as a law student? What is your self-care practices? How do you like make sure your mental health is good? I know you're in therapy now. Like, what are some other practices that you do? So yeah.
So I've been hanging out with my friends a lot. Maybe because we're grieving, but also because that brings me peace, hanging out with them and just being around them. Family. I'm going home this weekend to see my family. Full story, like for full circle. I did not feel like home this time last year, and I was trying to find a way to stay away. The fact that I'm going home and wanting and looking forward to being home, my priorities changed and the feelings change, and the new normal is what we're now used to. Um, So that's big that's a big thing for me. Family and my friends. And then just for myself, I'm trying to work out more. It's not going great. So I'm gonna find something else, which was eating. I did like to cook, but I don't have time. So eating, and I like to eat out, but I need to eat healthy. And so I've been getting like these meal prep things, and that's what makes me happy, getting to pick and choose. And I love food. And so having food, friends, and family, that's what helps my mental health.
That was perfect. You are just like so succinct. I love this.
Where was this energy during 1 year when it was time to write the exams? Because my thoughts were everywhere.
Phelan, thank you so much. This was so great. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your wisdom. You are amazing. I feel like what I really want for you, what I really desire for you is rest. That's like my only like desire for you is rest and peace and ease. Because I really feel like I feel like life just keeps happening, right? And I really desire for you to feel internally just this sense of like I'm good. God's got me. And I feel like you do feel that. I can see it in your face. You're glowing, girl. Like I can tell. Like you're doing the work, and I love that you're in therapy. It's gonna be so helpful for you. It's gonna be hard. Trust me, I've been in therapy for like a couple months, and I'm like, why am I doing this? This is terrible. But it's like it's really helpful. So I'm really glad that you took the plunge, and yeah, just really want to say thank you for all of your, even for like your page that you do. I mean, like that's like you share your experiences in a way that it's like unique, like it's your story. People get to benefit from that. So thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for being you, all the things.
No, thank you for having me. And anybody who needs me or wants to vent or connect, follow me on Instagram at legally lost underscore, and I'll make sure we connect. I'm open book. Hit me up.
I love it. All right, end it here.